Hey guys, in today's video, we're talking rucks. There's 5 or 6 good ones. Hopefully, they're in your team. Hope you enjoy. Joe, mate, rucks have always been a bit of an interesting one. Sometimes we go for those cheapy options and look to upgrade. Sometimes we just start to set and forget. What do you reckon for this year?
Mate, there are 5 or 6 great options. I would love to have all 5 or 6 in my team at the moment, but unfortunately, we can only fit two. And this is the year more than ever where you really do have the flexibility to choose what sort of ruck you want, as well as the
Mhm.
different price points it was which. So it's very nice. I like Supercoach is offering us a smorgasbord of options at all the different price ranges. So looking forward to breaking it down for all our wonderful viewers.
Yeah, it's one of those years, isn't it, where there's like 1 or 2 guys that are the maximum price. There's a couple of guys who are viable in that kind of 5 to 600K range. And then there's a couple of options who are a little bit cheaper but could end up being number ones in their team or number ones in Supercoach for the whole year.
We were going to go through each of them and we're going to let people know which ones are worthy of paying up or which ones you can skimp out on and you can find more value elsewhere. Starting off with who we reckon is going to be we're going to go backwards this time. We're going to go
Yeah.
backwards. There's no honorable mentions for today because that's it. It's be selected or forever hold your peace or hold your silence, whatever. So we're going to go backwards. We're going to start with number 6, which is Kieran Briggs, who
Hmm.
finished third highest average for the year. I know he's priced at over $600,000, but we reckon that there are better options than Kieran
Yeah.
Briggs in this season.
Everyone remembers him being the cash cow savior for last year. And for a lot of people, he was. A lot of people got him at what, R3. And I think me and you and a couple of others just had him for the whole year. We traded out our Ruckman so we could get another midfield premium and then had Briggs. He might not be the best player, but at that price, he's definitely a very viable player. I think GWS have a good run early where they're pretty favorable matchups. I mean, look at the first round, right? North versus GWS. Like Briggs is versing a potato, probably less than a potato, like a stick on the ground. Like that's North Melbourne's Ruckman at the moment. So expecting big scores to start off with. Early buy and price probably push him down a little bit. And the fact he's not done it before.
Yeah, and he's gonna feast on some weaker teams. There's no doubt about
Yeah.
it. But when he comes up against other fellow good ruckmen, he tended to struggle a little bit. I know he scored sub 100 scores against Melbourne. Obviously, got Gawn. Sub 100 against Adelaide. Obviously, you got Rob there. Sub 100 against Wits, who's a goal in Gold Coast, and he's sub 100 against Mark Pittenay of Carlton. So when he's up against the big, strong ruckman, he also tends to struggle. And we want our very few selections. We only have 2 spots for Ruckman, and we want to make sure that they can score us respectable, good scores every single week, week in, week out. And we have so many options that I think it is the year of setting and forgetting. I'm not one who's keen on advocating for sideways out your premiums. That's
Mhm.
not sort of what I like to do. I like to upgrade my team as quickly as possible. And I think Kieran Briggs, with his early buy as well, makes him a non-selection for me.
Yeah, there's just no value at the price either, which probably doesn't help.
No. We then move to number 5, someone who does pose a lot of value that is in 68% of sides. Thought it would be a little bit higher. It is one Brodie Grundy.
Mhm. Moved over from Collingwood, then moved over from Melbourne, has now ended up at Sydney in a smaller ground, as you would say. The SCG really is really favourable for a lot of stoppages, which means generally a lot of bounce or a lot of ball up. So Brodie Grundy expecting some massive scores does really well when he has to solo ruck, but like a few other of these ruckmen, just can't play any other position. There's some that do really well, but we saw last year a big struggle with him when he had to play forward more and Max Gorn was number one and whatever. He won't have to do that at Sydney. For the price, he's definitely warrants pick number 5 on our list. Potentially a little
Absolutely.
bit higher, but there are some really good juicy options.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to predict exactly just how high Brodie Grundy is going to do. Obviously, he performed really well when Max Gawn was out of the side and he was playing as a sole
Mhm.
ruckman. But that was a 1 year off, and the year before that, when he got injured playing for Collingwood, he averaged 103. Obviously, he had done an ACL and his season was cut short. So, look, it's going to be tough competition for him. He's going to be playing as an extra midfield in an already midfielder as well. That's part of what makes Brodie Grundy so great is his ability at ground level. But it's a question of how much they're going to use him when their midfield is so stacked already. If he can't get a lot of pill around the ball, then he struggles to really hit high, I suppose, a lot of high points. So Brodie Grundy is definitely a fair, not even fair. I think he's definitely undervalued. And the reason why we have him is because of that wonderful value. Wouldn't be a surprise if later down in the season, his average might not be as high as some other players that we're going to be talking about, and you might use it a luxury trade if you have them spare hanging around in order to do so. But I think Brodie Grundy is going to be a very fine selection for all of us.
Yeah. There's a reason why he's in 68% of teams. So
correct.
It kind of shows itself, right?
Absolutely. Next person off the rank is the big Shrek, who's only in 1% of sides. So he is not very highly owned. And I think we can understand why. He's not having a great preseason to date.
No, you just kind of, I don't know if it's the size. I'm pretty sure you start running and you're playing AFL and you've got to lump around probably 120 kilos or so, regardless of how tall you are. It does take a bit of a toll on the body, right? These players are expected to run 13, 14, 15 kilometers in a game. It probably changed for some of his injuries. So, yes, limited preseason, but when he's on fire, he does really well.
Oh, mate, when he's the number one ruck, he's capable of pumping out 150s, 160s even. So he's obviously one of the premier ruckmen in the competition. And with his size, when he's resting forward, he's very hard to move and beat in a 1v1 in a one-on-one contest. So he's capable of taking some contested marks in the forward line and kicking some goals. So Sean Darcy, if not for his health concerns, I think he would be in a lot more teams, especially considering he plays for Fremantle, who have that really great buy as well. So Sean Darcy is on everyone's watch list, and if he can't get up, then Luke Jackson, who we spoke about in the forwards video, all of a sudden becomes a lot more tantalizing of an option.
Yeah, 100%.
We then move to number 3, the guy right below him. It is Big Maxi Gawn, mate. What does anything have to be said about the great man?
Well, he sneezes and 200 points comes out of his nose. So we know how good of a player he is. Has had a bit of issues with scoring in the past year or so, but that was more mainly sharing with your Brodie Grundy types. This year, none of that's there. Fullerton probably won't even play. It'll be a forward pinch hitting. Max Gawn will be able to dominate in that midfield, do whatever he wants to do. As long as he doesn't get gang tackled by Caleb Daniel again, he should be a pretty consistent scorer for everyone. It really is just that early buy, which is kind of scaring people away. We don't really care about the later buy too much.
No, we don't. Absolutely not. But yeah, it's the early buy, but still for his value, I think it's important. It's very hard to discount a guy of his caliber. He easily went 120 plus with Grundy out of the side as a sole ruck. Yes, there's no Clayton Oliver, which might appear to sort of weaken the midfield over there at Melbourne, which could also reduce his hit outs to advantage. But rest be assured, there was a nice 10-game stretch where there was no Clayton Oliver, and when Gawn was still rucking by himself, he was still, in fact, scoring even better without Oliver in the side. So Max Gawn, for his price point, I think it becomes very hard to turn him down. And I imagine if he can get through this preseason unscathed, I think this 53% should increase.
I think so too.
We then move up to number two, Rowan Marshall.
Yeah. Tell us about Rowan Marshall, Joe.
Rowan Marshall was very frustrating to many players last year. As we were fellow owners, and he was a lot cheaper than what he is, how he's starting this year. But for him to have still averaged 114 for the season, it was the back end of his season, which really saw him absolutely dominate. He had a sensational run home, and that's part of the reason why his average is so high. He's in only 7% of sides. Still, it's not too bad compared to some other ruckmen around, but he's in the prime of his career. And Rowan Marshall is, I think, only going to, if not match what he did, but perhaps do even better as long as he's not getting rested in a full last quarter like what happened to him last year.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it really comes down to maybe the 50K or so that you save from him going a Max Gawn or someone else. That really affects it. No early buy, which is fantastic, but also kind of what happens with that forward line, right? You've got Tom Campbell, you've got Machida Owens potentially hitting in the pinch hitting in there as well. Maybe a Hayes comes back in from injury. So a few of these players who might take a bit of that ruck time where Rowan Marshall does get a lot of his points. We do know he can play forward and kick goals. So that's great. But if he's not the solo ruck, if he's got to share a bit of ruck time, we potentially see a little bit of a price drop. And that's kind of where I think a lot of people are sticking away.
Yeah, I mean, his last 6 games, he had an average of 132, which is absolutely insane, even higher average than what Tim English was pumping out. And really, of a lot of these ruck options, he seems to be the safest option when it comes to health. He seems to have the best durability and not missing as many games as all these other ruckmen have as well. So it's really exciting, I think. And if we can get him for a cheaper price a little bit later on in the season, could be a nice little upgrade or side or luxury trade. But at the moment, I don't have him for that price, just mainly for the lack of value there.
Yeah, I think so. Same for me.
But we're talking power rankings and we're talking overall points and scoring power. It is leaving, of course, the last one, Mr. Tim English himself, who this is, of course, very much predicated on the role that he's going to play.
Yeah, if he plays halfback and keeps those kick-ins, I think he's going to be a fantastic player. And Bevo's got a really good key defender made here. Tim English is, he's great mark and solid boot, not fantastic. Should be able to do okay. Just kidding, guys. We know he's not a key defender, but yeah, Tim English came out of nowhere last year. It always had signs of, hey, look, I'm going to be fantastic, but never really pulled it together. Last year was the first year, full 24, 23 games, just came in and dominated against everyone. There is a little bit of issue with concussions. He has kind of had some time off in the preseason now, but the club says, hey, look, you're fine. And he is back to almost full training. So if that is the case, do we see Tim English scoring a similar type score? Or are we expecting maybe a little bit of dropping points? Because 128 average is bonkers, especially in a team that has 4, 5, 6 really good tall players too.
Yeah, Tim English had a lot of red flags over his head over last preseason as well, which is why a lot of people, myself included, did not select him. He didn't have a full preseason. He did have a very injury interrupted preparation coming into the season, and it was a bunch of things. It was concussion. It was various soft tissue things. Like Tim English was the perfect example of someone not to select due to how bad of a preseason he had. Every time we heard about him, something bad.
2 soft injuries in the preseason last year.
Correct. Like it was not even the same soft tissue injury. Like it was 2 different ones as well. Like, he had so many bad things going wrong for him in the preseason last year. They're like, oh no, I'm not touching this guy. He's just going to collapse on me any second now. But he played out the whole season and went bananas. So I don't have any issues about his scoring capacity, even with his interrupted preseason this year. My concern really comes down to how they play Rory Lobb. They have interviewed Lobb, not Rob. They've interviewed Lobb and they've spoken to him and said that they liked what they saw from the mix that they had with him rucking a bit more in that last game against Geelong last year. English had 60% of ruck contesto. Rory Lobb definitely ate into that quite a bit. He only had 53% of CBAs, which I think was the lowest that he had for the entire season, only at 53%. And he barely cracked the ton with 103. Now, I know that English gets his points from around the ground, but him missing out on centre bounce attendances is really important because it gives you a hit out as a 1 point. If it's to advantage, you get an extra 4 points, and you get to tackle if you're around there, a handball or a kick. You're missing out on really important points if you're not in the centre bounce. So definitely need to keep a close eye on that centre bounce attendance split between him and Rory Lobb. If it's going to be English as the main guy again, then great. But if Rory Lobb is going to be involved more, then Tim English will not be R1 for the year.
Yeah, it's the problem with the Dogs are they brought all these players on and they really have to justify the salaries, which means they have to play them, which means that it could affect other players. So definitely a preseason watch.
And with that, guys, let us know in the comments down below, what do you think of our power rankings, ranking who we anticipate to be the top 6 ruckmen for 2024.
Yeah, and let us know if you guys are going for a cheaper option or if you're just going to go lock and, set and lock and forget. So that could be I'm going to say Luke Jackson. That could be a Sean Darcy. That could be a Tim English. That could be a few of these other players. Do you care about the early buy as well with the Gawn and Grundy?
Yeah, let us know about that, guys. And if you like what you saw here today, please drop us a like. We'd greatly appreciate it. Just to let us know that you are enjoying the content that we're pumping out. Otherwise, let us know in the comments what you would like to see, because ultimately we want to make content that you want to consume, because we're here to help you guys and we want to do the hard work so that you don't have to. And if we're giving you things that you don't want to see, please, it would be great if you let us know.
Yeah, 100%. And we've got our Supercoach group as well. Well, Supercoach League, because now we're in leagues this year. So jump on. I'll post the video in the comments section below or in the description. Have a look. See if it's something you want to do. 3 great prizes. And it's free to join.
And free is good. Everything that's free, give us more of. As is a subscription, as is hitting that notification bell. Completely easy and free to do so that you don't miss out on any of the content that we're pumping out this preseason and in the season proper.
100%. Remember, guys, as Joe said before, we do the hard work, so you don't have to. Bye for now.
Bye.